So this is me basically giving tips and tricks on writing and production. And today I'm going to break down 2085, if that's cool. Yeah! All right, love the enthusiasm. Okay, so 2085, oh, by the way, if anybody has questions throughout, just raise your hand. This has worked really well to be sort of an open-ended back and forth kind of thing. Okay, 2085 originally started as a very different type of song. We wrote it as kind of wanting it to be like the sweet, quirky, small acoustic song on the album, almost like The Trick for OK Orchestra. We wrote a song called Life Ain't Shit. Here, I could play you a little piece of the demo. This was the first draft of 2085. It was a totally different concept. It was about telling your friend a joke and the joke not landing, and then you sort of ruminating and wondering, what was it? Was the punchline the problem? Do you hate me? Sort of like spiraling, which is not a bad concept at all, but very different from what it ultimately ended up being.
We were with friends, and I told a joke. Everyone laughed, and I was pretty stoked. But you didn't laugh, no, you shook your head. And I haven't seen you once since then.
So we knew that we liked some of the melodies and some of the production, but I think as we were writing this album, The Maybe Man, we realized, wow, it's really turning into a more emotional album than we realized. And there's a lot more of a concept than we realized. There's this Maybe Man, there's this big sad superhero that sort of wants to be everything that he isn't. He needs to learn a lesson at the end of the album, because we, in our lives, over the 2 years of writing this album, have learned so many lessons. And so we knew that there needed to be actually a bigger, more epic, emotional button on the end of the album. So we ended up turning this sweet little acoustic song into 2085. So this is Pro Tools. This is how I make all of the music, and each one of these tracks is a different instrument. The first thing I'm hearing is this sort of old-fashioned vocal. This is actually Jack. Jack's really good at impressions, and so sometimes I just have him like sort of sing nonsense into the microphone, and this time he was doing sort of I can't even do it, but like a 1950s radio announcer kind of guy, and I just had him sing random syllables, like work, that, sort, and I cut it up into something that sounded like a melody. So in reality, it's just nonsense. It's random syllables, but it ended up sounding like you work hard for now, just now, just now. Which maybe that's like where we were at psychologically in the album process. This was one of the last songs, if not the last song we worked on for the album. So I think we were kind of thinking, you work hard for now, just like, you know, we're almost done with the album. And so the idea behind this production is we wanted it to slowly grow throughout. It starts with really just this guitar, and every verse we add like an organ or we add a piano, very seamlessly growing and growing and growing throughout. And so we wanted some kind of percussion element underneath the guitar that wasn't just a drum. We wanted you to almost feel it instead of hear it. And so we added tap dancing under the guitar. We added this guy, where with the guitar, maybe now you'll hear it.
If somebody told me I'd die at 4.
I don't know if these speakers are good enough for you to be able to hear, but it sort of just bolsters the guitar. You almost like, especially through headphones, you almost feel it instead of hear it. Any questions about anything so far? Yeah. How'd we record the tap dancing? It is not actual live us tap dancing. We found it on YouTube and stole it, and then recut it up into something. Yeah.
So, like you said, you know, the music grows throughout the song, and I think that's really reminiscent of like scores and like classical music and
totally
ensemble music that you guys make. Are there any like deep inspirations or like deep cuts from like maybe musical composers for films or anything like that?
Yeah. So you're talking about our we reference big orchestrations a lot. Like whether it be classical or opera or whatever. Broadway is an enormous influence for us. Les Mis and Wicked, You're a Good Man, Charlie Brown, Phantom of the Opera. Those are some of our favorites. I think Broadway has such a way of being unabashedly cornily itself. a lot of times when we're making music, like the first draft of World's Smallest Violin, let's say, it was a lot more Broadway sounding than ultimately what you guys heard. Our process is really, let's make a full-on Broadway song, and now let's pull it back and add just enough cool elements that it's palatable to planet Earth. And so, yeah, I think that's often instinctually where we go. It's I'll blow up and is like fully just a Broadway song where one friend is telling the other friend, this is the rules of dating or whatever it is. I'm going to recap everything and it's going to speed up. And then we put just enough electronic elements that it's actually cool. Yeah. Yeah, let me take one more and then I'll keep going through. Yes. What was my favorite song to work on for this album? It was probably Deadpool and Wolverine. Let me see. You know what? So I feel like when we're songwriting, it's one of two things. It's either a song takes like a year to make and we just keep rewriting it over and over again, trying to chase what the song is. That was like Yes, I'm a Mess. Yes, I'm a Mess we rewrote 4 different times over the course of 3 years. And I'm glad with what we ended up with, but nothing about that was fun. That felt like actual work. We gotta chase this thing. And then once in a while, there's a song that just flows out, and that was Steve's Going to London. That was as soon as we knew, okay, we're gonna write this song about nothing, but more specifically, we're gonna write a song about writing a song about nothing, and how the point of the song is, this is nonsense to distract you from your difficult lives. It just flowed out. I think it took max 2 days to write. It was just me and Jack at our country house, just like, what if Dan peed in the pool? And what if this happened? And what if that? It was so creatively exciting. And then what we had at the end of the 2 days was literally like the final product. So in those moments, it's just so fun and euphoric. Okay, let me keep moving through. So we wanted the song to kind of grow and grow and grow, and then explode at the end in this sort of emotional catharsis. And so we came up with this, you gotta get better, you're all that I've got kind of thing that would repeat over and over again. But in terms of production, we wanted it to really explode in a specific way. A big reference for us was this Elton John song called My Father's Gun. That's a pretty random Elton John song and pretty unknown, but it's our favorite Elton John song. Actually, when we met Elton John, we told him this was our favorite of his songs, and he had no idea what we were talking about. He forgot that he wrote it, which was sort of a bummer. But we love the production at the end here, because it kind of feels like every musician is soloing over everybody else. The piano is doing his own thing, and the drummer's going crazy, and the bassist is going crazy. So that really felt like the reference for this. So we ended up recording, we very rarely use live drums, but we ended up recording a lot of our drummer just kind of messing around. We didn't snap anything to the grid. We barely processed it. Just kept it very messy. We got, yeah, literally this track is called Elton Piano. I was just soloing. Very messy. I sampled a foghorn, like a ship foghorn, as the bass. And then retuned it. It feels kind of like a Christopher Nolan movie. Like I hear so much room in there, it's more powerful than just a bass. So the idea was just, let's have everybody messing around all over each other while Jack is screaming over everything, just everything at once, which we don't usually do in AJR's music. More questions? Yeah? What made us want to switch? You're talking about the time signature where the beginning is 4/4 and then 3/4 and then back to 4/4 and then the end is in 3/4. It wasn't on purpose. We just had, Jack comes up with a lot of the melodies, and he had a voice memo of he just knew that was a melody that we liked, and it felt like the end of the album. So it was almost like a mathematical thing of how do we change time signatures using the fills and make it seem like one seamless song, but include a melody that's that good. So it was literally just we wrote them separately and figured out how to shoehorn them together is the answer. Yeah.
I was wondering, since you guys been writing a Broadway musical, how different is writing a song for that than on an album or like a single?
Yeah, so how different is writing? We're in the middle of scoring a Broadway show of Harold and the Purple Crayon, but like sort of a grown-up, edgy version of that children's book. And how is that different writing? I think that we've been writing about ourselves for so long, and especially just the AJR character, I think, is often somewhere between me and Jack. It's like the introverted, weird awkwardness of me and kind of the interpersonalness and observing friendships of Jack. It's like somewhere between us. But as a result, we're just always thinking about ourselves. How do I view the world? And that gets really boring and tiring. And so it's been really fun to step outside of ourselves and go, what would Harold's mom, like this is made up, I don't want to spoil anything, but Harold's mom, whose husband left her, like how is she feeling about the world right now? It's almost like an act of service. It's like, I'm gonna super empathize with something that isn't me right now. It feels really refreshing. Yeah. Yeah. Is it super hard to incorporate Easter eggs into songs? You know what? I think that probably comes back to our love of Broadway. Like, if you listen to Les Mis, basically every melody in Les Mis, the pre-chorus of this is the chorus of this other song. That's really fun. That is like the creative engine for me. And I think, I don't know, I think it comes really naturally to us. For some reason, I know a lot of other musicians hear it and go, how would you even think of that? It's just one of those things that like comes really naturally. It's like, we already have this great thing in a song. Let's just, shoehorn it into another song. And everybody says, it's amazing and cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Will you ever release like a fully acoustic or live album?
Will we ever release a fully acoustic or live album? I don't know. Is there an appetite for that? I'm not sure.
Yeah!
I had a resounding no, so probably not. No, I don't know. It has never occurred to us before. We really like what we did with the Inertia acoustic thing because it felt like an emotion switch. It felt like the original Inertia, we kind of wrote it as like a musical theater, kind of like carnival-y kind of whimsical chords. And then we realized, the fans view Inertia not as that, but they view it as an emotional thing. They come to the meet and greets with tattoos of I'm fucking hungry, but screw you, I'm trying. Like it actually really meant something to them. So we wanted to do an acoustic version that actually felt emotional. So maybe if there's more impetus behind it, we would want to. Yeah. Did we add or remove anything major from any of the songs, like last second? Let me see. I don't think so. You know what? I think we work for these on these songs for so long, then the mixing process takes a while. I think at that point we're pretty certain of like what the song is, and we're ultimately just trying to chase the excitement we had when we first finished the song. Like, wow, our friends really like this. Like, let's get out of the way of how great that original demo was. Okay, let me take two more. Yeah.
Kind of building off of that, were there any songs from any of the albums that have been cut and not re-released as like kind of a different album?
Are there any songs that have been like fully cut and not re-released as? Yeah, because a lot of the songs we cut. I'm thinking we wrote a song called "Waiting for the Beat to Drop" that we scrapped for parts. Let me see. I haven't pulled this up in front of a masterclass, so hopefully this is not embarrassing.
Come on, guys, I promise everything will be alright.
So obviously that became 3 o'clock things, but Waiting for the Beat to Drop then became the outro of DJ's Crying for Help, and now I'm all alone, because the outro of this, I think, was... Yeah. literally that became the outro of DJs Crying for Help. So we end up recycling a lot of stuff. Because at one point, whenever we made this in 2020, we were excited about, and now I'm all alone waiting for the beat to drop. So we didn't want to sort of throw out the baby with the bathwater. We wanted to reuse it. Final question. Yes, in the front there with the hat.
I was gonna say, like, the lyric, how's it go? You gotta get better, you're all that I got. Is that Jack, like, saying that to his fans, or to himself, or to, like, people he's close to?
Yeah. So you're asking about the lyric, you gotta get better, you're all that I've got. I remember writing that in the shower, and that was, I wrote it ultimately for my dad, because he was still alive at that point. But I then wanted to do sort of a twist on it at the end. I gotta get better. I'm all that I've got. Because at the end of the day, that is really true. It's like, if you don't like yourself and you don't love yourself, then sort of nothing else really matters. So I wanted a line that rung true in both ways, that the maybe man could kind of learn that lesson in that way. Guys, these were amazing questions. Thank you so much. I'll see you out here.
Yeah!